Welcome to Ruining History. Today we're going to talk a lot and learn a little about the ascension of Darius the Great.
Darius.
Is it Darius?
It's a very modern name. I know 7 Dariuses.
Maybe they were inspired by this.
All of them are average at best.
Do you know anything about Darius?
He's a DJ.
No, the Darius the Great.
He's a DJ and he owes me $40.
He was a Persian king. He was known for uniting the Persian Empire. He was like the greatest Persian king. And this story, to give you a little heads up, not really about Darius much at all, so much as the weird chain of events that led to him becoming king. There are a lot of characters in this, so I have all these little aids for you. Here's we're gonna start out with a guy named Cyrus.
First impression, that's Jesus.
First, there was Cyrus the Great, founder of the Achaemenian Empire, which was sort of in this region here around the 6th century BCE. Darius was actually a distant relative of Cyrus, but the king didn't seem to care for him. As legend tells, he had a dream about the 20-year-old Darius. In it, the boy had, quote, wings on his shoulders, the one wing overshadowing Asia and the other Europe. Cyrus interpreted this as a sign that Darius was plotting against him.
I think every ex-girlfriend I've had has gotten mad at me at some point when they've woken up and I was mean to them in a dream. And like they take it out on me in real life.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Are you sure Darius isn't a DJ? His friend's name is Cyrus.
He looks like he's in the polyphonic spree.
But it didn't matter what Cyrus thought because he was embroiled in a conflict with Tamiris, the queen of the Masagatai. And after she slayed him in battle, what she did is, according to some accounts, cut his head off, then dunked it in a skin full of blood, like a gory Oreo, stating, "I make good my threat and give you your fill of blood." So that's it for Cyrus.
What is a skin full of blood?
It's like a wine skin.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's just,
savage.
that's it.
Jesus Christ.
Now Cyrus had 2 sons, Cambyses and Smerdis. Cambyses was described as, quote, an ardent, impetuous, and self-willed boy, such as the sons of rich and powerful men are apt to become. And Smerdis was described as, I don't know, his brother.
Here's these 2 funny guys.
Hey.
You got Cambyses, who's very stern, and this guy who's just kind of chill.
Smerdis.
Yeah.
He's kind of got a Charlie Brown kind of tunic on, huh?
Yeah.
Papa's head's missing.
I'll put them by their papa there.
Being Cyrus's son, Cambyses inherited the throne and very quickly decided to invade Egypt. People thought he was insane, and look, it's fair, because he was kind of a reckless guy. While in Egypt, for instance, he asked to see their sacred bull. Then he stabbed it to death.
Oh my Jesus.
That's so funny.
It's just rude. I mean, that's really all it is. You show up, you ask to see their sacred bull.
Can you take your bull? I promise I won't touch
It
it.
would take a long time to stab a bull to death, so were they just like, please stop stabbing our
it's
bull?
just like, he's staring at them in the eyes while doing it, just...
Cambyses was also known for his fits of blinding rage and for making rash decisions that he would later regret. Take, for example, the story of Croesus. Croesus had been a close friend and counselor to Cambyses' father, Cyrus, who had asked him to watch over Cambyses. With that in mind, at some point, Croesus thought he would offer Cambyses some constructive criticism. He warned the king that he'd been treating his men cruelly.
Oh, so? What was he doing?
He was just known to be sort of reckless. There was one story about a guy who had told him that he thought he drank too much.
Sure didn't end well for that guy.
And he said, okay, well, if that's true, then I shouldn't be very good at shooting a bow. So he called the man's son in and he had him stand against a wall. And he said, if I drink too much, then I'll probably miss this shot. And then he shot the man's son in the heart.
Oh.
Wow.
The man's son?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's way. I was imagining he was just walking around knocking people's swords out of their hands, like being a little dick. That's way worse.
Maybe he was aiming for the face and he was too drunk to hit the heart.
Oh, I just meant to take out an eye.
Oh man, did you guys see that?
Oh, sorry about your son.
Either that or he had to play it off like that was his plan the whole
Yeah,
time.
he wakes up the next morning, he's like, oh, what did I do last night? Tell me I didn't murder anybody's kid.
Croesus warned the king that he'd been treating his men cruelly and that it wasn't a great way to maintain their loyalty. Cambyses responded by telling the supportive old man that he'd always hated him. He pulled out a bow and arrow and Croesus fled the scene.
Does he have a bow and arrow under his robe at all times?
He pulls out the bow and arrow. Where's your son, Doug?
I love how this old man knew it was coming. He's like, oh shit, it's heart shooting time. Time to hit the road.
Cambyses ordered his officers to chase after the man and kill him. They did chase after him, but knowing the Mad King would likely regret having his friend killed, they hid Croesus away. Days later, when, sure enough, Cambyses expressed remorse for his actions, his men revealed that Croesus was still alive. Cambyses was overjoyed. He then had those officers executed for disobeying him.
Whoops.
Jesus Christ. It's just literally killing the messenger.
You've brought me such joy.
Yeah.
Where's my bow and arrow?
I love it.
Bring me my bow and your sons.
Anyway, Cambyses had decided to bring his brother Smerdis along during his visit to Egypt. It's thought that he was jealous of Smerdis and was worried that if he left him alone in Persia, he might try to seize the throne. Since both brothers were away from their hometown, Cambyses left a Magian in charge of keeping an eye on his palace. Magians were basically just a priestly class.
I've got this big Persia set.
Oh. So Cambyses is worried that his brother is going to seize the throne, and to prevent this, he puts like a stranger. He gives the throne to a stranger.
I mean, presumably it was someone he trusted.
There's a lot of paranoia in this family.
Why does he have red eyes? That's just a
Because he's a spooky, he's a spooky magician.
Or he's just really high.
So in his free time, he's a pothead magician.
All magicians are potheads.
I feel like magicians are probably more cocaine guys.
Not David Blaine.
That's a sleepy man.
Yeah.
If David Blaine loves cocaine, I can't even imagine what David Blaine off of cocaine is like.
No one's ever had to tell David Blaine, calm down.
Meanwhile, in Egypt, Cambyses had a portentous dream about Smerdis, in which he saw his brother, quote, seated on a royal throne in Persia. His form expanded supernaturally to such a prodigious size that he touched the heavens with his head. Fed up with Smerdis, he ordered him to leave Egypt and return to Persia. Then he seemingly remembered why he had concerns about Smerdis being alone in Persia in the first place and called upon one of his men, Prexaspes.
Oh, shit. I didn't know we had a stylist in here.
Ooh, that's like a Pharrell outfit.
Full disclosure, none of these drawings are historically accurate.
All of these drawings are historical.
They might be. Prove him wrong.
Prove me wrong.
Cambyses called upon one of his men, Prexaspes, to track down Smerdis and secretly assassinate him. Prexaspes would do so, and he succeeded. He returned to the king to give him the good news about his murdered brother.
Also, fun fact, that I don't really know where this falls in the story. I think it happens after this, but Prexaspes is actually the guy whose son was killed by Cambyses.
No way! No, wait a second. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Also, sounds like a medication.
Prexaspes.
Ask your doctor if Prexaspes is right for you.
Shortly thereafter, Cambyses would receive some more news, some rather surprising news considering the circumstances. In his absence, his throne had been taken by Smerdis? Yeah, by Smerdis.
The dead Smerdis?
So now we have this mysterious Smerdis.
So somebody posing as Smerdis. See, this is why people get verified on Twitter. So you know which one's the real Smerdis.
Yeah, right. You should put a blue check mark next to the Smerdis.
Wait a second. He has thought that maybe this guy actually just lied about his deed.
He trusts that guy.
I just think that's odd because if someone told me they killed somebody for me and then I find out later that that person's now king, my first thought wouldn't be, oh, that must be an imposter. My first thought would be, oh, he probably didn't kill them.
Cambyses was, at first, confused by this recent development until someone reminded him of a key detail that made it clear to him that this must have been a power grab by an opportunistic usurper. I'm going to leave that detail a mystery for now so that you continue to watch this video.
Was nobody in the kingdom like, that's not Smerdis? What the
It's
fuck?
the beards, man. Like, once you have so much beard, you all look alike.
All right, if you're Smerdis, what did I give you for your birthday last year? An urn? Damn, it is Smerdis.
Leaping into action, Cambyses hastily mounted his horse and accidentally stabbed himself in the thigh with his sword. Then he died. But before doing so, he instructed his noblemen to return home and seize the throne from Smerdis by whatever means necessary.
So he was preparing like probably a weeks-long journey home, but was so excited to get on that horse that he stabbed himself.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it's that hard to seize this throne.
Yeah, that's true. How the fuck did he just walk in? Was he just like, oh, is anyone sitting there? No? All right, well, okay. I guess I'm king now. Fuck yeah.
The problem faced by Cambyses' band of noblemen is that a good lot of the Persian population believed the man on the throne was the real son of Cyrus. And with Cambyses now dead and the real Smerdis secretly murdered, they also believed this false Smerdis was the rightful king. Prexaspes likely could have cleared this all up, but he was keeping his mouth shut because secretly killing a prince wasn't a thing you talked about.
There's only like one person still alive that knows that Smerdis is dead. And he's probably gonna get in trouble if he reveals that he killed him.
Yeah, he's the only one who knows that Smerdis is truly dead.
So those two are just doing a bit this entire time. Because this guy knows he's not Smerdis, and this guy knows he killed the real Smerdis, so like there's gotta be some kind of weird tension going on there.
Maybe there will be.
Probably there won't.
He's just gonna stab himself in the leg and die.
Gonna kill himself making a cup of coffee the way this shit's going.
The false Smerdis further protected his identity by remaining in seclusion whenever possible, surrounding himself with those who had never met the real Smerdis.
That sounds exhausting, for him to always have to discern whether or not they've met the other Smerdis.
No, man, you just go on Facebook and see how many mutual friends you have.
But imagine carrying the baggage of any interaction you enter, thinking, oh, this person may say you're an imposter and now I'm gonna get murdered.
That's actually what I think every day. You don't belong on this history panel. Get out of here.
I've been meaning to talk to you, Garrett.
Yeah. He pulls out a bow and arrow from the bottom of the table.
Bring out Garrett's son.
Oh no.
Enter Otanes, a nobleman with a sneaking suspicion that he knew the true identity of Smerdis. He recalled a man who, many years earlier, had his ears cut off by the late King Cyrus, R.I.P. Otanes believed this imposter was the man on the throne, and he could prove it if only he could confirm the man was missing his ears. Problem was, the current King Smerdis was never seen without a turban on his head, so it was impossible to see his ears or lack thereof.
That's astounding that there's such a physical deformity about this person.
Maybe he's just confused about where he is because he can't hear, so he's just like, oh, this is my home.
Right? Yeah. You're not the king. What?
Oh, we're having toast for breakfast. Sounds good.
And wait a second. Did the other Smerdis wear a turban at all times as well? No one questioned that all of a sudden he's wearing a turban every day?
Yeah, but no one's gonna say, you're wearing a turban, you're not who you are.
But I mean, if I never wore a hat, and then all of a sudden every day from now on I wore a hat, eventually you'd...
Just be like Ryan's going through something.
It is a pretty bold thing to be like, that guy's wearing a hat. Maybe he doesn't have any ears. It's like, maybe he had a bad haircut. No, I bet his ears got chopped off.
Otanes then devised a plan. His daughter, you see, was a member of Smerdis' harem. He advised her to wait until the king fell asleep, then check for ears. So she did. No ears.
Can you imagine being like, no, Dad, I'm not gonna do that.
Like you think it's a bunch of bullshit because your insane father is like, I think your husband doesn't have ears.
I know you don't like him, but...
Just humoring him.
Yeah. He also keeps his turban on while naked. Sure. That's a weird...
He's like a never nude.
Otanes had confirmed the identity of the false king. As he suspected, it was not Smerdis, brother of Cambyses, but it was, in fact, a man also named Smerdis.
So, all right.
This could have all been a misunderstanding.
It really was.
He's just like,
hey, I'm Smerdis.
Like, are you back?
He's just like, what? I'm sorry, what? He's just like, sit here. He's like, oh, all right.
Here's a harem. Well, don't mind if I do.
Everything's coming up Smerdis.
It turns out, way back when Cambyses and Smerdis left for Egypt and tasked a Magian with keeping an eye on their palace, the Magian happened to have a brother also named Smerdis, the man whose ears had been cut off by Cyrus and who bore a striking resemblance to the prince. And with Cambyses and Smerdis causing a bunch of ruckus abroad, the Magian installed his brother Smerdis on the throne as an imposter, seemingly at the ideal time considering the real Smerdis had just been secretly murdered. Upon piecing this plot together, Otanes assembled a group of noblemen to overthrow the false king. One of these noblemen happened to be...
Is it our guy?
Darius!
Hey! Welcome back.
Darius, our guy, who had arrived after piecing together the plot himself.
Darius figured this all out from abroad.
According to the story, Darius on his own just put this all together and was like, I better get back there.
The rate that information spread back then was so slow.
Yeah, I assume, I don't have the time frame on this. I assume it takes place over 45 years.
Yeah.
While the noblemen deliberated on the best approach, Smerdis and his brother began to get nervous that rumors of their scheme were beginning to spread. According to Abbott, quote, they conceived the plan of inducing Prexaspes to declare in a more public and formal manner that Smerdis had not been killed. As the noblemen readied themselves to storm the palace, Prexaspes climbed atop a tower and began to address the citizens, ready to assure them that the false Smerdis was the rightful king. But the weight of his lies had finally become too great to bear. Abbott states that, quote, he decided desperately that he would go on in his course of falsehood, remorse, and wretchedness no longer. Instead of denying that he had murdered Smerdis, he fully confessed to the astonished audience that he had really committed that crime. He openly denounced the reigning Smerdis as an imposter and called upon all who heard him to rise at once, destroy the treacherous usurper, and vindicate the rights of the true Persian line.
I'm just imagining like how we retweet and like tweet about politics now. Can you imagine if it was like retweet like Smerdis is an imposter, has no ears?
There'd be a lot of Facebook propaganda about this.
For sure.
Yeah.
All of our aunts and uncles would be Smerdis truthers.
Well, he was about to pull a move of a major obstruction of justice. And then he had a change of heart, you say? His change of heart here, to me, doesn't strike me as a moment of good of conscience. It's more just like he's seeing where the tide is turning, it's self-preservation, get on the winning side. That's kind of what it seems like to me.
With his burden finally lifted, Prexaspes must have known his fate was sealed. But, quote, before the officers of the king's household had time even to consider what to do, Prexaspes, coming abruptly to the conclusion of his harangue, threw himself headlong from the parapet of the tower and came down among them, lifeless and mangled on the pavement below.
Well, as to the question of self-preservation,
that sucks that there wasn't a hay bale underneath him so he could jump into like Assassin's
Or like a
Creed.
pile of laundry.
Yeah,
a truck bed full of pillows.
Yeah.
Like how Aladdin escapes.
With chaos erupting in the courtyard below, Darius, Otanes, and the other noblemen walked right into the palace, ready to carry out their assassination. Initially, guards didn't even attempt to stop them. They were noblemen, after all. They eventually made it to Smerdis' room, where he was waiting with his brother, the Magian. The imposters made a run for it, but were quickly caught. Darius made a slash at Smerdis. Quote, the Magian fell upon the floor, and there, stabbed again through the heart by Darius' sword, almost immediately ceased to breathe. Nearby, the Magian's head was also removed. The imposter and his brother had been slain.
So I'll remove their heads now. You want to hang on to that as a souvenir? So why are you smiling at it?
You look so lovingly at it.
It's just really well done.
Oh,
It's really
thank you.
good.
Thanks.
Good little smear.
Propping the usurpers' heads on pikes, the noblemen took to the street and explained the wicked plot to the people of Persia. And just to be safe, they encouraged everyone to kill other magi, if at all possible. Quote, before night, vast numbers of them were slain. The 7 noblemen, victorious in slaying the imposter king, now had to decide how to rule the kingdom. After some back and forth, it was determined to proceed with a monarchy, surprise. But the method they landed on to choose which of the 7 noblemen would take the throne was certainly something.
Any guesses as to how they would decide who would take the throne?
Rock, paper, scissors.
One of those like jelly beans in a jar situation.
Who's got the cutest butt?
Who judges that?
Me.
Well, here's their weird way of doing it.
It was decided that all 7 men would mount their horses and sit at the outskirts of the city. Whoever's horse was the first to neigh at sunrise would be king.
So this has nothing to do with God.
The person.
Skills.
Sort of rolling the dice here.
You smack a horse, won't it then neigh?
Yeah.
Probably.
So at sunrise, I'd just be spanking my horse then.
Yeah.
Which is something I'm now
That's like a
saying.
euphemism for something
I'm
else.
spanking my horse at sunrise, as I always do.
Every day when you wake up, time to spank the horse.
According to one version of the story, Darius turned to his groom, Oberes, for help with the competition, and his groom assured him,
Master, if this is to determine whether you become king or not, be confident for this reason and have an easy mind, for no one else shall be king before you. Such are the tricks I have.
I don't know if he actually sounded like a Muppet.
He's gonna spank his horse, and that is a euphemism. Holy shit. He's gonna jerk off that horse at sunrise.
He's not gonna jerk off.
Oh my God.
Prior to the competition, Oberes sought out one of Darius's horse's favorite mares and rubbed his hand on the horse's vulva. He then kept his hand hidden in his clothing until he stood alongside Darius's horse at sunrise. At that point, he raised his disgusting hand to the horse's nostrils, which caused the horse to immediately snort and whinny. And that is how Darius the Great became a king.
This is the least earned title I've ever seen.
That's
gotta be
hysterical.
It is a testament to honesty, though, because most people nowadays will lie about how they got a black eye, let alone that your friend diddled a horse.
That also like says a lot about the standards of the time, because that was cool to them.
Yeah.
That's what they believe was like dope. That's very tricky thinking.
He didn't even lie about it. He bragged about the trick that he had done.
These poor horses. In every story we hear, horses are being slighted in some way.
They are the forgotten victims of most of these stories.
Horses got to fight in wars that they don't have nothing to do with. Horses got to get diddled when they don't wanna.
It's weird that part wasn't in Cyrus's dream.
You did dream frequently about a horse getting diddled. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't disclose that.
You're not
right?
telling everybody?
I'm not screaming that out to the crowds.
Right, and you're just like, what'd you dream about? Just like, fucking nothing. It's like Darius had like wings or something.
Any other details?
Are you sure? Are you sure that's all it was?
Yeah.
He's constantly Googling, what does this mean?
He's like consulting Magi. He's just like, so I need you to be like very discreet about this. He's just like, oh, just like fetch my bow and arrow.
Oh, there you go. For the record, Darius would go on to, unite Persia, do some good things, maybe some bad things. I just thought this was a fun yarn. A lot of murder, a lot of funny characters, but a lot of horse vulvas. Well, one horse vulva, but that's been Ruining History. Thanks for learning with us.